Hey everyone, Tony D with another hot take. This one is coronavirus in New Jersey. I know, sorry. Um, it's uncomfortable to talk about it, I'm sure, for some of you, but it's important that you know knowledge is power. So here's the update. In New Jersey, we had 5 cases yesterday. We have 11 confirmed today. I expect within the next 24 hours, we'll probably be up to 2 dozen. We've had one death, very unfortunate. In New York, the governor has declared or has brought out the National Guard into New Rochelle. This does not bode well, I'm afraid. I think we will probably be heading down that road shortly in the state of New Jersey. Yesterday, the governor declared a state of emergency, which he declares all the time if there's a snowstorm or a flood or whatever. It's not really all that big a deal, except he gets to spend more money. And, emergency service crews get to work overtime and they're more available to people, which is fine, I guess. I think the state of emergency is probably going to last. We have 800 people in the state who are voluntarily quarantined or self-quarantined. But that means they could leave. And in fact, there was a case, I don't know if it was in New Jersey, but there was a case of a guy who was supposed to go to a daddy-daughter dance, and he was supposed to self-quarantine, and he went anyway with his daughter, who I think also was supposed to self-quarantine or something. And they ignored it, and they went. Yeah, see how upset Joan is about it? You shouldn't ignore the self-quarantine. But that's probably the next step in the state of New Jersey. They're going to say, hey, everybody, why don't you all stay home and not go to work and self-quarantine? But you don't have to, which might as well not be anything, because the moment you say, well, you don't have to listen to us, people will go, oh, good. And then they won't listen. Which, a few bosses will be super nice, if they've got a great business or one that they can have their employees work from home. I'm sure they'll be happy to send their employees home. At my nephew's college, they are already preparing to do classes online in an attempt to get through the rest of the semester so they don't have to do it over again, because they're going to lose a ton of money. I'm not sure how that's going to work to suddenly shift over to online classes, but who knows? But I think we're headed down the same road as Italy. So Italy, first they did self-quarantine, then they did just quarantine in the provinces in the north where they had the problem, which caused people to panic and flee those provinces. And then they quarantined basically the whole country and said, okay, now we're going to set up in Italy. I believe they have the army and the police are kind of closer together. Anyhow, they're setting up checkpoints, and now you can't go anywhere. And they're having problems. The prisons are rioting because they cut Visitors' Day for the prisoners, which they had to do to try to keep them from getting infected. But unfortunately, they rioted, and 20 escaped. And so they've got some issues going on in Italy. We're probably heading down that road. The first road for New Jersey, of course, is the state of emergency, which we already have. The next level will probably be, hey, everybody, why don't you self-quarantine? Why doesn't everybody just stay home from work for a week or so? And people will go, oh, yeah, sure, and then they won't do it. The next level will be the forcible quarantine that Italy has, which it'll be similar but not the same. It'll kind of be like the whiteout conditions in New Jersey when they say, oh, it's a state of emergency, stay off the roads. And then they'll say you can't be on the roads unless you have an emergency or going to the hospital or, you're a cop or you're an EMT guy or whatever. And they'll probably do that for a few weeks in an attempt to keep the virus down. Unfortunately, that's probably going to piss a lot of people off and people will sneak around it. But I don't know. And then all the businesses will close. This is when you're going to want food, because if they put that down, The first thing that's going to happen when they announce it, people are going to panic and they're going to rush to the stores, and then you will see riots at the stores because, and this is why you should get your food ahead of time. You still have some time if you go at a weird time, a weird hour or whatever, go to an obscure store, you could probably still get your supplies without much of a problem. There's already people fighting over toilet paper. I saw the video today. It was weird. But yeah, I mean, the moment they announce, yeah, we're going to really crack down and nobody can go anywhere, that's when people are going to panic. They're going to run to everything and buy everything, and then they're going to jam it all in their house and, hope for the best. The next thing that would probably happen is you may have the National Guard come out, as they are in New Rochelle, to beef up law enforcement, and because a lot of the law enforcement will be sick, and so will the EMTs, and so will the hospital workers. So, the National Guard will come out to supplement people. Hopefully, they'll be well when, the rest of those people are sick. It surprised me. Sargon of Akkad did a video on this, and he seemed to think, and I kind of disagree with him, that Trump should take a more firmer hand on this whole thing and maybe do something like call out the National Guard or whatever, maybe set up checkpoints or whatever. I mean, he has a point in that people are going to basically ignore voluntary quarantine. The problem is, one of the things he said in the video, which I was shocked he said it, was, the government should do something. Even if it's not very effective, they can't really make it worse. Well, I disagree with that. The government could make it worse. They could, the government in China has certainly made it worse. First by covering it up, and then by putting people in various quarantine camps or whatever they are. You could see something very similar here. You could see, in an attempt to quarantine, people they perceive as sick, they could just quarantine off whole areas and say, oh, no, you can't leave here for 2 weeks. And then you'd be like, well, I just walked over here, and now you trapped me in here, and my kids are at home, and I need to get back to them, or, I got a dog or whatever. So that I would not endorse that at all. The draconian measures, you don't want to ask the federal or state government to say, hey, please, crack down on us and quarantine us. That's the last thing you need, is these guys with that kind of power to throw you in jail for breaking quarantine. That being said, I think it would just be enough to, basically say, hey, listen, people are sick. If you go out, you're likely to get sick. That would probably deter most people, as would closing all the stores and businesses. I mean, if they're closed, people really won't have a reason to go out. I certainly don't see why you would go to a restaurant during the crisis. I've advised against going to restaurants. I'm done going to restaurants until this is over. Restaurants, takeout, and I love that stuff. It's killing me that I can't go. So, stay home, save your money, wait until this all blows over, and, don't panic. Again, the stats are, the people who died, their average age was 81. Now, if you happen to be that old or close to it, you should definitely not be traveling around. You should definitely avoid getting this at all costs. And, if you could stay where you are and avoid contact with everyone, order your stuff on Amazon, get it, wipe it down with, the Clorox wipes, let them dry, let the items dry, throw out the boxes, wash your hands, wash the area that touched the boxes and all that good stuff. You could be fine. If you can afford it, just hunker down for the next 6 months, because that's probably how long it's going to take to burn through the population to the point where, we're done with this for the most part, at least until next year. Who knows? And hopefully they'll have a vaccine by the time it rolls around again, and everybody can line up for that. But don't panic. I mean, you shouldn't panic. Panic is the enemy. Knowledge is power. So get on the internet and, educate yourself about what you should do. Don't believe everything, but consider everything. And as far as the virus goes in New Jersey, you just got to avoid crowded spaces if you can. And the last thing you need to do is go to Walmart when like hundreds of other people are there. I mean, that's the last thing you want to do. You want to go to the store when it's practically empty, or at a weird time, super early, super late, whatever. Don't go there and riot for toilet paper or whatever. I've seen the videos. It's ridiculous. You should probably stay away from political rallies right now. It's going to be a lot of people. I'm surprised, these candidates are still going to them. I think it's a dumb idea. They should not be doing these things, especially Biden and Sanders. They're too old. And even Trump, really. Too old to be doing that, Do it from a widescreen TV, do a remote. I mean, it's not going to be the same, but at least, keep yourselves safe. There's a panic in Washington. I read that, everybody in Washington wants to work from home now. They're worried about getting a virus. Some of the congressmen are demanding that they be able to work from home. I don't know if they're set up for that. They're usually pretty backwards in terms of computers, but I certainly wouldn't mind that. In fact, I think they would probably get more done if they were able to work remotely rather than physically traveling to and from Washington. I mean, that was the people's business a couple of 100 years ago. But now, we have computers, and you could just dial in and sit in whatever state you represent, and then, make your vote known via teleconferencing. Why not? And especially during this virus, which, give it like 4 to 6 months, and this will all be behind us, and we'll be in the summertime relaxing, laughing about it. Ho, ho, ho. Remember that virus? It was terrible, yes. But we're through it now, and we're all better people for it. Right, little Joan? Come here, little Joan. Say hi and cheer the people up, because you're so fuzzy and fun, and everybody loves little Joan. Hey, everybody. Make sure you stock up on all your food, especially for your little doggies. And then don't panic, because you're all going to be okay. Right, hooray. All right, that's it for me and little Joan. We'll see you next time.